What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Young Adult Podcast. My name is Connor, and I will be your host. Joining me today in studio, we have the one and only Casey Mexico. I think that's that. I'm not sure. It's been a while. Guys, we're back. I think every time we say we're back, something happens that makes us not able to record this for like months at a time. But I believe we are back to our normal recording, posting schedule. Our goal is to do 2 podcasts a month, every other Monday, and to give you both the audio option for everybody on Spotify, if you're still there. We used to have some people all across the world listen to us. We had people from Brazil, people from Spain. We actually had a lot of people from Spain.
Oh.
I know. It was pretty cool. We had people from... Where else? We had people from Belgium with our Red Rocks campus over there. We had people in England. And now we're probably back to 5
global.
people.
Okay.
Yeah, we're
local.
probably back to 5 people. And us 2 are 2 out of the 5. So
Sick.
No, but we are back. What's taken us so long, we've had some different staffing things with bringing Casey on the team, having other people transition into more central roles on our team, as well as we really, really, really wanted to get back to recording the podcast and having video elements of it for our YouTube page, for social media, and that just took a lot longer than us during COVID when we sat in my office with like an iPhone and a single camera and just kind of did it in a very ghetto way.
Wow.
So we're back. We're way more legit, way more professional. And unless another world disaster happens, we should be posting bi-monthly every other week, both audio on wherever you listen to the podcast and video. So I'm sorry, because every time we do a podcast, I'm like, we're back this time for real. And it's like, nope, we're not. But we are back in the studio, and we have an interesting podcast that I think something just fun that I, if I'm being totally honest, thought of this morning. And I think it could be like a cool conversation, and then we're actually going to answer some questions based off the conversations that we're talking about. But Casey, I've been talking for a long time. How are you? How have you been these past couple days, weeks, months since the last time we posted our podcast?
I'm doing good, Connor. The sleep is not great for me lately. I am struggling to find a pillow that I like.
No way.
Yeah, that's a real thing I'm in the midst of. I just bought a $50 pillow.
Okay.
Hate it. Absolutely hate
Wait,
it.
why?
It's like this memory foam one, and you can flip it in different directions for side sleeping and back sleeping. So in the middle of the night, if I want to switch to my side, I have to turn the pillow 180 degrees.
That
then
sucks.
I know, and I read the instructions. It's like it'll take 2 weeks to sleep train your neck, all these things.
So it's going to hurt, basically.
Yes. So I haven't slept in a week, and then last
That
night
sucks.
I chucked it to the ground and went back to my old pillow that I think is my childhood pillow.
Have you seen The Cube?
No.
I don't believe in it at all. I do not, but it's like expensive, and it is like this cube. It's like a cube pillow.
Let's look.
That's supposed to be really good for your neck.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, it's like truly. I mean, I don't know how else to describe a cube. It's truly a cube.
But I look at these pictures and they look like they're trying to be comfortable, but not. Like this man's face is like a grimace.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not about it.
I want my pillow to barely be there, but be there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Aaron and I are rolling with pillows that we've had probably since we got married. So we could use new pillows.
that's how I am. If you find a good one or if anyone has an idea, I'm really struggling. This is 31.
Yeah. The things you're into as you get older, guys. But today I wanted to jump in. We have an interesting kind of topic. I want to talk about AI, and I want to use AI in this podcast to kind of give us some prompts, give us some things to talk about. But before we dive in, AI weirdly has been, I don't want to say controversial in the church world, because I think anytime there's an innovation in the world, the first thing the church always does is like demonize it and like run from it. And, people were like, oh, there's not going to be any more in-person churches and pastors are all going to go away and all this different stuff. But maybe within the realm of spirituality, just within life, if you had to give me a 30,000-foot view of your just overall thoughts on AI, the future of it, like where are you at? Is it like the end of the world? Are you like, I love it? Like, where are you at?
Yeah. So my first response was to be like that, like cranky old woman that's like, back in my day, we had to read books. We didn't have the Google. So my cousin, she's like 45. Her and her husband were like, AI is it. He has like every version of AI that you could possibly have. Yes. And I was over there, I don't know, probably in August, and he was like, I bought every version. I bought the stock. And I was like, this 50-year-old man is so into it, and I'm the one that's like, well, I just feel like it's not, if I use AI to write a sermon, like, is that godly? I was really spiraling, because he was like, why don't you like type in all these topics for like a sermon you have coming up? He's like, I'll have AI write your sermon. He shows it to me, and I'm like, this is actually not a bad sermon. Like, this is kind of good.
That's awesome.
And that's the one I gave last. No, I'm just kidding. So I think part of me has this like gut reaction of like, new, bad. I'm not going to work hard. People aren't going to work hard. People are going to steal things. Robots are controlling us. And then immediately I was like, wait, am I that grandma that's like, don't use Google. You need to go use like, write a paper the old-fashioned way. And I'm in college like, yeah, right. Like, that'll take me forever. So I'm getting there. Like, randomly I'll be watching TV at night, and then I'll be like, I want to ask it something.
Oh, dude.
I'm like, am I lonely?
Do you
I'm just kidding.
Do you pay for ChatGPT?
No, I don't. Do you?
Every single month. Yes. It is.
Is it
amazing.
worth it?
Yes. I love it. It's amazing. And most people only think of ChatGPT as the initial, like, interface. I wish I would have had my phone, but there's so much more now. I'm sure there's people listening being like, this guy is truly a grandpa. But like, there's a little Explore GPT button, and it has everything from like, when you pay for it, like your ability, it has a website generator. It has like a coding generator, an image generator. It's integrated. ChatGPT is officially integrated with Canva. So you can like have it design things for you.
Shut up.
Yeah, like on Canva. Like it's freaking amazing. It's amazing. And I mean, there's so many, like, there's a copyright thing, so you can like make sure you can like have it copyright your material, or make sure you're not like copywriting other people. There is so much just on ChatGPT for $20 a month. ChatGPT, sponsor me. Seriously.
And Corvus.
Yeah, pay for my subscription.
And you use it. Like, you use it for all it's worth.
I use it all the time. I use it when I travel for like recommended areas. I use it when I'm like researching stuff, because ChatGPT, the one that I pay for, I think the one that's not paid for, that's free, like all the information is like capped out in like 2022 or something like that. But this one updates like every 5 minutes or something like that. Oh my gosh. So it's pretty incredible. So I don't know. I'm a big fan. Have you ever used it for a message?
Yeah.
Like, in what context?
When we had that snow day, you called me. I'm driving over. You're like, so, like, do you have anything prepared? And I was like, I don't, but I can. And I had just read, like, Isaiah 40 that morning. And I kind of had some insight I was going to go, but then I was like, I need something, like, really quick and snappy. So I, like, picked a word from the verse that, like, had stood out to me. And I just, in ChatGPT, was like, hey, like, word study on, this word in this verse and this chapter. And it gave me like the Greek, the Hebrew, how it was used in the culture. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But then I was like, is that good? I mean, it wasn't wrong information. I also didn't like sit with the Holy Spirit for 3 hours to like get the word, you know? I don't know.
I'm like, it's no different than Google.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I've never used it. I've tried using it to study for a message, and then when I went to my commentaries, it was like totally wrong.
Oh my gosh, did I just give a wrong Devo?
Maybe. Who knows? Who knows? But so that's kind of like hindered my trust in it as far as like using it for messages. I've never had it like write a message for me. I will be honest. I had a friend who sends out like this newsletter, be like, I totally blanked. I have to send out this newsletter in like 10 minutes. Can you write a Devo for me on this topic? And I was like, sure. And I plugged it in ChatGPT, edited some stuff real quick, and sent them back a Devo in like 2 minutes. So that's the only time I've ever like really used it for content specifically.
Yeah.
But I'm about it. I love it. I am all about it. But what do you feel like how far do you think is too far in the world of AI? ChatGPT. Let's just go there. Like too far or like totally fine?
I think the thing a lot of people are saying right now is it's going to like eliminate jobs.
Which it probably will.
Which it will. And I wonder, I guess for me, there are jobs that require like soft skill.
Yeah.
That I think should have like a human touch. Mm-hmm. And maybe too far would be, I don't even know what job. I don't know, maybe but they have like that robot now too. So
I'm going to go down a list and I'm going to ask you like, what do you feel like is where is your limit?
Okay.
Like with artificial intelligence. So ChatGPT.
Okay, great. Okay. That's like a trampoline. It gives me an extra bounce.
Okay.
That's what I'm picturing.
The Oculus, what was it? Like the Meta headset. Like the VR. Virtual. I don't know if that's technically artificial intelligence. I think that Meta probably has some artificial intelligence built in there, but I don't know why. Maybe this is my old head brain, but I'm like, VR goggles. That's so
AI.
Yeah. Like, what about like a virtual reality? Like artificial virtual reality, like elements.
I think that's fine. I think I picture like when I used to be a youth pastor, all of my teenagers being like, I can just talk to my friends here. And I'm like, you have zero emotional intelligence now. Like there's like a fear. That's like the don't do video games side of me that exists.
Yeah.
That's why Rick Mexico raised me. No TV, one of those households. So I feel like it's not too far, but definitely needs to be monitored with young people.
Yeah, I can see people getting really lost in virtual reality and then not knowing how to connect with humans.
Yes.
Have you seen, I used it in a message, there is a picture of like a perceived evolution of human beings based off of like how much we use like screens and different stuff like that. Dude,
shut up.
This is where we need like the Joe Rogan assistant to like look stuff up. But it was, oh my gosh, like the evolution of a human being. If you're listening to this and you're not watching, we are looking up like a future picture of the evolution of a human being. I can't find it.
Are they all like?
They're like super pale. It says that we'll have a second set of eyelids that almost act as like a blue light, like glasses. I'm trying to find like a evolution of a human being.
Is there I have a fear. My grandma used to have like thumbs that went in, and whenever I text, I just feel like I'm gonna be an old lady with like a thumb that is like stuck inside my hand. I have a lot of fears.
Well, it's like everybody's gonna have like hunch neck or something like that. Our pinkies are gonna be bent from the way we like hold our phones. It's like all this different stuff. I really wish I would be able to find this picture.
That's not good.
But it's creepy. It's creepy. So, okay, sorry. ChatGPT you're good with. Little headsets, whatever. Self-driving cars.
No, I can't. I won't get in one.
You can't get in a self-driving car?
No, I watched like, what was it? There was a movie I watched where they like took over and then crashed him. And I have this image of myself in the self-driving car. And for whatever reason, someone wants to assassinate me because I'm so important to our world and government. Just a beautiful mind. And then I die. And that's it.
Here's the thing. I'm technology pro, but I can get pretty deep into conspiracy theories when it comes to our government. So my fear of the technologically advanced vehicles would be something like that.
Yes.
I mean, I think Kamala said she wanted... I think this is like a pretty big push to have like kill switches in electric cars. Yeah. Like for like high-speed chases, which I'm like, when is the last time there's been a high-speed chase? Yeah.
Like OJ? I don't know, like the one I saw on TV.
Yeah, I don't know. But like there's I don't think it was Trump. I don't know who it was. One of the politicians, one of their big thing was like electric vehicles and then like the ability to like stop electric vehicles, like all this, like push for huge like electric vehicles and like the monitoring of those, like wild. So one, I would buy a Tesla. I know it's so cliche of like pastor driving a Tesla, but like I don't care. I will embrace that cliche. I don't want to say Elon as a person. I don't know Elon as a person, but I love what he's about of just pushing the limits in the most, not even childlike, but like he wants to go to Mars.
Yeah.
And by
like,
trying to go to Mars, he's inventing the coolest things. And I'm just like, I think that's cool. I like that. So,
yeah.
But you would not get in a self-driving car.
Dude.
In Phoenix right now, they have cars. They have an Uber service that is strictly self-driving cars.
I think I would. I don't know. I also love making friends with an Uber driver. I'm kidding.
You'd be good at that.
I feel like your wife's that way, you know? Like, you never know. God might use me.
I know. I feel like I'm an Uber driver's worst, like, not nightmare, but I have the same 5 questions. I'm sure hey, where are you from? How'd you get into Uber? Do you like it? Is it flexible? What's one of the weirdest, like, encounters you've ever had? I'm sure they're just like, wow. Like,
oh, my dad's an Uber driver.
Stop talking.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So no, I don't. I think I would. I would because I like adventure, but I would feel I would feel nervous. I'd feel anxious.
Okay, Tesla bots. We just watched a video before the podcast started of the rapper 2 Chainz interacting with a Tesla bot called Oculus. Optimus. Optimus. Yeah. Would you ever have a Tesla bot?
Here's the deal. I watched iRobot with Will Smith, and it like scarred me. I watched it at maybe age 10. It doesn't even everyone. The plot is the robots. They have all the Tesla bots. They're helping the world, society, and then randomly they all turn, and it's horrifying. And there's just images of them climbing on the buildings and breaking in.
Yeah,
and
they wouldn't care because if they fall.
Oh my gosh, it's horrifying, Connor.
Yeah.
And I have like nightmares of it. And so, no, I don't want that thing in my house. Here's the deal though. Clean my house. That's kind of nice.
I mean, that's kind of what they're for. I think
know.
you can program them to like do simple tasks.
Here's the thing. I just saw a post. A man fell in love with an imaginary friend. Like, are they going to be used for those things?
Yep,
Connor?
100%. People are pervs, and they're gonna do pervy things with the Tesla bot.
Oh, God.
That's just how it goes.
That's why
people can't just let it clean their freaking dishes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So maybe I'm against it because it's getting to a place that feels dystopian.
It does. Okay, how about this? Last one before we really dive in. People are like, you're 18 minutes into this. Neuralink. Would you ever get a Neuralink? Do you know what that is?
No.
It's a chip that Elon invented that they implant in your brain and allows you to like see a screen. And like, so I know it sounds really weird, but they're using it for like quadriplegic people that can't like use their hands and arms.
That's cool.
The second person to ever get a Neuralink transplant in their brain can now play like online video games using their mind, using their brain. Like, it's crazy. There's a video that just released like a couple months ago, I think, of him playing like Call of Duty or something like that. And it sounds terrible.
He's just sitting there.
He's sitting there, but he's like, the player's moving and shooting and running and jumping. And like, it's all in his freaking brain. Like, would you get a Neuralink?
No.
Yeah.
Get out of my brain.
Limit. I would maybe do a Tesla bot. Like, I would maybe buy a Tesla bot if it could fold laundry and do stuff like that. I'm not letting them turn me into like a human zombie. That's not happening.
Yeah, no.
That's not happening.
Feels like a revelation, like.
Yeah, Mark of the Beast.
Yeah, like I'm going straight down.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
We have like a creepy sound on here, but I don't know what it is.
Let's just guess. It'll be funny.
If that's not, why do I feel like that's like romance or something? Yeah.
It's a pink button.
Yeah. Okay, so the whole reason we're talking about AI, I thought it would just be interesting and funny to have ChatGPT write up some questions and prompts for us around like being a young adult, living in a city, and navigating this season of life. So here is the prompt that I gave ChatGPT. It gave me a list of 7 questions in multiple categories, and I'm just going to go through and pick questions that AI made. And I actually believe, reading through these, that they are going to be beneficial and help you grow in your faith, your relationships, romance, friendship, career, whatever it is. So this is what I said. I said, pretend you're a young adult between the age of 18 and 29 living in a major U.S. city. What are questions that you would have surrounding navigating this specific season of life in areas of faith and spirituality, relationships and romance, friendships, careers and vocation, and calling and purpose? And it gave me this giant list of all these different questions. So here we go. We're going to throw it out.
Okay.
How do I identify and find a good church that feels like home in a big city? So if you're a young adult, maybe you're new to the Denver area and you're looking for, let's say, a community of other young adults pursuing Jesus that just so happen to meet on Thursday nights at 7 o'clock at our Lakewood campus. No, I'm kidding. But what would you give somebody? What are some parameters for a young adult, maybe moving to a new city for their first career? How would you tell them to identify and find a quote unquote good church? Like what would be some parameters for you that would say like, hey, like find a good church? What am I looking for?
Yeah, that's a good question. First, I think know yourself. Like, I think some people come to young adults and they're like, there's a lot of people. I hate that. I'm like, well, it's a mega church. You know, there's going to be a lot of people.
Yeah.
Or they're like, I'm an introvert, and the only context in which I feel like I can talk to somebody is if everyone knows my name immediately, you know?
Yeah.
So I think first and foremost, be honest about who you are.
Okay.
I think a lot of people move to a big city thinking that somehow they are a different person because of that move.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you can't push yourself in different contexts and still connect with people. Like, well, we have plenty of introverts in our ministry. But I think identifying your values and like a context that helps you grow or has historically helped you grow.
Yeah.
And so if it's important to you to be known, or it's like immediately, or to find your people, or to have somebody there know your name, like, great, you still come to a big church, but I would immediately go to like the new here and ask questions. I think a lot of people come to church and they're like, okay, I kind of liked it, kind of didn't, but they're making a lot of assumptions based on like no knowledge. And so I think first and foremost, if you're really serious about getting plugged in right away, and I think that's super important, instead of waiting for somebody to somehow answer all your questions by you just sitting in a chair, go to the resources at the church and ask your questions, like get information. I think people try to make decisions based on really limited information, and then they wonder why they haven't found the perfect spot. And it's like, when was the last time you made your decisions about any of the relationships you have based on limited information and it didn't kind of go weird or south? So
no, I think that's great. I think you need to know what you're looking for, and I think you need to be fair with churches. Like every church is different. Every church just like every person is different. Like the church will take on the personality of the pastor. Pastors have certain bends. Pastors have certain life messages. Pastors have certain goals they're trying to achieve with their church. Some churches exist to like grow Christians in depth. Some churches exist to reach people that don't have context for a faith journey or relationship with Jesus. So I would say know what kind of church you're looking for. Don't demonize a church that doesn't like fit you. And then I would say if you're looking for different churches, if you're trying to find a good church, give a church like 2 to 3 months before you like jump around. Because I've probably preached sermons that have like offended people by saying something stupid. That's not my heart. You know what I mean? Give a pastor a couple, like I feel like you cannot get the full vibe of a church in a week or two.
Totally.
Give it a month or two. Go to some things. Like if you are a young adult, see if they have a young adult ministry. Check out how they do community and groups. But there's people that bounce around week to week to week, and I feel like they never end up landing in a church because they haven't been able to see sort of like the full scope of what this church is on a consistent basis. So if you're new to a city, you're trying to find a church, I would say know what kind of church you're looking for, and then give it a chance before you just, go to the next thing. So
and to bounce off of that, I think sometimes when we're looking for community, we're looking for ourselves. We're looking for it to look like us, look like we've experienced life, look like our friends. But the reality is, like, our faith is transforming. Like our faith, God seeks to transform us, sanctify us, grow us, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. He will use diversity and different to do that. So I think too, there's this like, I'm searching for my comforts, in a church. And I don't think it's wrong to have some of those, but I do think that there should be some things that like, oh, that will push me.
Yeah.
That will grow me. Interesting. And I think obviously there'll be like red flag things for you maybe in some church contexts.
Absolutely. Don't give a church 2 to 3 months if they're doing some really weird
stuff. But if you're like, oh, I don't know if I would do groups that way, or I don't know if I like this, but I don't think it's not biblical. I just think that I am uncomfortable with it. And it's like, well, welcome to being a Christian and following the way of Jesus. Like, he will lead you into discomfort. So I think finding out, I guess, like figuring out whether that's with community or people that know you really well, lean on people who know you well from a previous community as you're making these decisions. I think sometimes we think we have to make choices of where to land in a vacuum.
Yeah.
I can't lean on anybody else. And it's like, well, lean on someone maybe like your parents or a mentor from back home or a church person back home that you connected with, and like run through some of your options and kind of say, hey, I want to grow. Jesus is like calling me to grow and transform and all these things. Do you feel like based on what I've told you about this house, this is going to be a place to land for me?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're looking to just like be the same person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. And can I give somebody a piece of advice? This church doesn't need your thoughts on how it can be better on your first or second week being there.
Oh my gosh.
Let me challenge you. If you want to give a church some advice, go to that church faithfully, tithe your money to that church for a year, and serve and volunteer for a year.
Yeah.
I tell people, and I know this might offend some people, if you do not give to this church and you do not serve at this church, I don't have an interest in what you think about this church.
Yeah.
In a sense of like how to make it better. Why? Because you're not invested.
Yeah.
You're shopping. You're a consumer.
Yeah.
Like, that might sound harsh, but like if I've got a volunteer that's been here for years who is investing their time, talent, and treasure, and they come to me with a thought or a way to make something better, I'm listening to that person's opinion because they've proven that like this is their community and they're not just here to receive, they're here to like give back and build and grow. Some of my most not annoying conversations, but it's funny. The most passionate people that want to tell you how to do church better are the people that are visiting for the first or second time. And you're just like, wow.
Yeah.
Like,
sick.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I call it like an armchair Christian.
Yes.
Like, okay. Like you're going to watch a Broncos game and then be like, if I could just talk to the quarterback.
Yes.
Like, it's
seriously.
like, okay, like my man, like there's a quote from Brene Brown has a book called Daring Greatly, and she kicks off the book with a Teddy Roosevelt quote about the man in the arena.
Yeah,
and it's this, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, this is one of my favorite quotes of all time.
It's the best quote. And I used to be this kind of Christian. Like I'd sit in the back of every church and be like, well, there's no women and there's no this. And I was coming to look for something I didn't like. And really it was so that I could feel better about myself. At the end of the day, it was self-righteousness. And it was like baseline, like insecure in a space. So I'm just going to kind of be a bully. I'm not going to read the whole quote, but it's just this idea that, it's hard to like summarize the quote. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like,
it's the one. Yeah, the man in the arena.
It's the man in the arena.
It's one of the most famous quotes. Like, it's amazing.
Mud on his face, and he's working his butt off, and he's fighting to get that ball like across the, like into the end zone. Like he's spent himself for a worthy cause, shoulder to shoulder with other people that are spending themselves, not because they're perfect, but because they care about. They care about what they're doing. And so it's kind of this idea that like, if you're the man in the arena, if you're in the arena with me, let's go. Like, let's make this great. Like, I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make it perfect. Like, I'd love to work towards this with somebody. But if you're on the bench or you're in the bleachers and you're shouting cues at me, I'm like, you can shut up.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather hear a cue from my teammate who's next to me. The
ending of that quote, I love it. It says, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place will never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory or defeat.
Yes.
Teddy Roosevelt, what a boss statement.
It's so good.
It's so freaking good. All right. We're going to go through. So I asked it about faith, spirituality, relationships and romance, friendships, career, vocation, purpose, and calling. We're going to pick a question out of each of these. So we're going to kind of go a little quicker through this. Let's dive into relationships. in romance. It gave me 7 different questions.
Wow.
Let me just throw this one out there because I feel like this could possibly resonate with a lot of people listening. How do I balance the desire for a relationship while being content being single? So, ChatGPT, pretending to be a young adult in a major city, 18 to 29, who's trying to hustle, have a life. ChatGPT wants to know, how do I balance the desire for a relationship while being content being single?
I'm very content being single. But I don't know if I necessarily am in a place in my life where I desire a relationship, so I can't really speak to the tension of this.
Okay.
Probably in the same way that some other people could.
Yeah.
What I do want to say is, if you do want to be married one day, that's awesome. And like, I pray that happens for you. But in the meantime, no one needs to know where you're at. And you have unlimited time. Like, I think enjoy being single.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people baseline aren't comfortable being by themselves or struggle to make sense of themselves in the world without like the validation and feedback of another person.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that as single people, I think that's something that like married people, or at least like some of the healthiest marriages that I've seen, they're really interdependent. Mm-hmm. Like they could be by themselves and talk to God and have a great day. And also they still would love to be with their spouse. And so I think, marriage or your relationship as solving this like security problem, the security or the sense of insecurity within yourself or needing to be validated or needing to know you matter, that should never be on the shoulders of another person anyway. And so prepare to be in a relationship by being in a relationship with God and like knowing what that looks like. Yeah. So that isn't on the person that you're with one day to uphold. So anyway, for me, I'm so content. Denver's so fun, you guys. Like, go have fun. Go make friends. Yeah. I don't know how to describe it. Like, live with like 7 people. Live with 7 guys. Live with 7 girls. Like, do the weirdest crap. I think sometimes I see a lot of Christians like forcing things really, really young because they're like, well, that's just what Christians do. And that's da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, God's not in this like grand hurry for you to like have these checklist items so that he can use you. I think God can produce fruit in your life right now. And that can look really dynamic. Yeah. So I don't know. It's hard because I'm not in the midst of that tension, to be quite honest. I like love I just go rollerblading. I like do whatever I want when I want. My greatest fear is that someone would text me and be like, "Where are you and what are you doing?" And like checking in on me all the time, and I'm like, like who wants to know?
They just have you on Find My Friends. So
I know some people do, and I didn't even know that. No. So maybe you're better equipped to answer that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just echo everything you're saying. I think like when I was young and single, I had a desire to be in a relationship. I took a break from dating for a year. It turned into 7 years. I just did the whole Christian college thing where a lot of my trauma is like a super heavy word. A lot of my sin patterns, a lot of my like relational dysfunction came in the context of dating relationships. And so I was like, well, I'll just cut this out for a year. I'll focus on going to church, finding like a core group of like Christian friends. That turned into 7 years. I always had a desire to be in a relationship. It just never really happened. And so I would say the biggest things that I see young adults doing, they become like hyper obsessive over like a relationship, and they feel like their life isn't going to begin until they get in a relationship, and then they'll look back and realize they've wasted some of the best years of their life. What I always tell people is like build a life you would be excited to invite somebody into.
That's good.
So travel, like kind of like what you were saying, like do everything you want to do. Yeah. Because when you get in a relationship, it just makes that harder. Yeah. And then if you have children, it just makes it even harder. And so if you have a life that you desire and you desire somebody to be in that like life with you, that's great. But start building the life that you desire. And then hopefully you'll find somebody to invite into that life. You're not waiting and wasting all this precious time waiting to find somebody to then begin that life that you desire. Yeah. Build your life. Go after your career. Travel. You are never more free than when you are single. and you have never had more time on your hands than when you are single. And if you get married, if you have children, that's just more responsibility you have to like handle. And so enjoy your life, build a life you're excited to invite somebody into. And then here's my one caveat with that. We see people getting married or in relationships older and older, which is great, like whatever. But don't get so stuck in your ways that you don't have room for somebody else.
Yeah.
I talk to a lot of friends that are in their late 20s, early 30s, and their checklist for a person is next to impossible because this person has to brush their teeth a certain way. Like they've just become so used to doing life alone that now a person who used to be thought of as like a gift is now this like interruption to all these patterns. And I'm talking about like dumb stuff, like stuff of like, I don't know, like, oh, I read at night instead of watch TV, or like, oh, I like, you can just get so set in your way that you don't have space for anybody else. So I would say live your life, pursue your dreams, create a life that you'd be proud to invite somebody into, and then make sure you're leaving space for the difference of somebody else, because you will never marry yourself. 9 times out of 10, you marry your exact opposite. Pretty much all my friends that are married have married their exact opposite. I feel like God does that for some reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, create space for other people. And I just feel like if you're living your life, you're pursuing your passions, if you're following what you feel like God has like put on your life, you will begin to create a life that's amazing and that people will look at and want to be a part of.
Totally.
I feel like, at least, I don't want to speak for girls, but there are so many girls that look at guys that are just sitting there waiting to be married. And it's like, I don't want this life with you. Like, you don't have a life. You know what I mean? But like a guy who has a career, who has ambition, who has dreams, who, whether it's climbing the corporate ladder, being entrepreneurial, whatever it is, pursuing what's on their heart, that's like a fun life to get invited into.
Totally.
And so live your life.
One quick tangent of what you said, because I found myself getting to that point where I was like, I watched this show. I watched Saturday Night Live at this time on this day, and like this old lady like crotchety, like who didn't refill my Brita, you know, like just
literally that was my dad this weekend,
right?
Like,
so like some
like,
inflexibility,
who didn't fill it all the way to the top. And
yes,
like,
I'm like,
bro,
your dad.
Chill.
I know. So I started to feel that a little bit, and so I was like, ooh, I need to like add some more relational discomfort, and not even discomfort, but just add some things into my week that will feel inconvenient sometimes and will feel annoying, but I know will be good for me. So just some small group stuff, like having a small group at my house every other week, or having like hosting, or having someone over, or going on a walk, like dog sitting for a friend, like having the dogs over, just trying to like enmesh myself into my community in a way that isn't just about me, and is it a little bit inconvenient, because I was starting to feel like I was becoming that way, and I was like, am I gonna like buy 5 cats soon? Like, what is happening to me?
Dude,
so that's super good. I hate you.
You're on the brink. Okay, so faith and spirituality, relationships and romance, friendships. Here's one. Man, these are like some deep questions. You know what we're going to do? We're going to do an Ask AI part 2 like later, because these actually are some really, really good questions.
Come on.
But I'll do one that's a little more lighthearted, because this other one I feel like could be almost an entire podcast in and of itself. Okay. How do I make meaningful friendships in a transient city culture? So I just did my sister's wedding, and one of her bridesmaids was from Seattle. And I don't know if you guys have heard of the Seattle Freeze. It's a real thing. Seattle is, for whatever reason, one of the hardest cities to make friends in, and it takes the average person who moves there 7 to 8 years before they make a meaningful friendship. I looked it up. We were talking about it's a very real thing.
Wow.
And while that might feel like extreme, I know that there are so many different people that I talk to at church, at young adults, who moved to Denver for their first career or a career shift or whatever, and they really struggle to make meaningful relationships in a new city. How would you advise somebody looking to make meaningful friendships, relationships, obviously not necessarily like romantic, but just like find a community in a new city, or maybe they just struggle to do that overall?
Yeah, so I read the Four Loves by C.S. Lewis, like probably like 5 years ago. And
Okay.
there's a whole chapter on friendship. And I think right now it feels like friendships have the same pressure as a romantic relationship. Like in terms of
Yeah.
like, yeah, the vibes were off, or like we didn't connect, or like people are really struggling to make friendships feel organic. When you look back at your life and you recount all your friendships, felt like they had this organic nature to them,
just
right?
kinda
Like,
happened, yeah.
and it's because like there's a quote in that book. It says, "We picture lovers as face to face, but friends side by side. Their eyes look ahead." And I
Yeah.
think sometimes we're trying to shift the friendship relationship to this like, let's get coffee and see if we connect, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas friendships have always had this organic nature to them that just happened as you accidentally were in a class with somebody, or you accidentally worked at Starbucks with somebody, or you were doing something else that you both had your hands to looking ahead, so that the friendship actually just sort of happened
Yeah.
because of a common experience or a commonality. And so for me, I put myself in contexts where we're not real. The goal isn't really to make friends, like serving at the church. Like, when I was a youth pastor, I told them, I was like, you will become friends with these people because you're getting ripped apart by teenagers for an hour every Wednesday. Then we're going to go to
Yeah.
Old Chicago's happy hour and laugh about all our fails and successes. And that you're just going to get closer by doing that over time. Just like in sports, like you look at some of the people that you were friends with because of your sports team, you're like, I would never choose you.
Yeah.
I would like, how are we even friends? Like we have nothing in common, but like we were on the same soccer team and we would do sprints after and like want to puke our guts up, and then we would like go eat pasta. And I think as adults, we're trying to cultivate friendships by dating kind of, but I think the way to cultivate friendships is to ask yourself what you really value and care about, putting your hands to as a creation of God who has gifts and talents. Look towards it, work towards it, and then look to the right and to the left, and then be like, all right, like I'm going to invest in these people. I'm going to
Yeah.
invite these people over to dinner. I think, and then the second thing I'll say is I saw this quote. I don't know why. I'm not usually like, I've been on Instagram a lot lately. I think it's because of the winter, you guys, like the snow day. I was
Yes.
like, why am I like
Yes.
this? It was saying that now a lot of our friendships are like recounting, kind of like reflecting on life instead of doing life together. So like I meet up with an old friend and it's like, update me. I'm like, well, I got a new job and this was the food it just feels like it's all recollection
Okay.
instead of creating new memories.
Yeah.
And the charge was like, why don't you do the things, like do life together in a way like, hey, I have to go grocery shopping. Do you want to come to Sprouts with me? Like,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
if they're married, like, do you have to get crap for your kids? Like, can I come along? You know,
Yeah.
inviting each other into like the mundane aspects of each other's lives. Kind of like, I think college, you're doing that, right? Like you're all going to get toilet paper together, or you're all like all of those things. I think as adults, young adults, we can kind of bring that back, like an older form of like creating friends. So those are my two things. Like, what do you love to do? What do you value? What's your purpose? Serve in that. Give your time to it. Give your heart to it. Look to the right and to the left. Wow. Okay, maybe these are my people.
Yeah.
Instead of treating it like dating, because I do think that they're different.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden there's this like dating relationship with every relationship, and it's like that's like exhausting.
Yeah.
Like, oh gosh, I have to get coffee and have like a deep convo with every single person, when I just want like an organic deep convo as I'm like serving at youth and like, how was your day? You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah.
So I don't know. That's kind of my life hack, is do a bunch of crap that I love.
Yeah.
I'm like I'm on like 3 sports teams right now, and it's taken time, but like before you know it, like we have a Friendsgiving. A lot of them aren't Christian. My goal is that like I invite them to church and stuff, but
Yeah.
I actually am closer with a lot of them than like some people.
Yeah. People
you
at
know.
church. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think I would say the same thing. I think like we have to get comfortable putting ourselves out there.
Yeah.
And I think one of the scariest things to like maybe a young adult, young professional in a new area is putting yourself out there, being vulnerable. Just because you're 24 doesn't mean being rejected hurts any less.
Yeah.
But I do think that we almost like take ourselves out of a lot of opportunities for relationship because of the, I don't know, like the unknown, the inability to feel comfortable feeling uncomfortable, putting
Yeah.
ourselves out there, going to happy hour with your coworkers, volunteering in church, and like meeting a bunch of new people that you feel like already know what they're doing. Like being the person who has to learn, being the person who's new. We don't like that feeling, but that's the only way you break through. And so I think if you're a young adult, young professional, and you're like, it's so hard for me to make relationships, I think you just have to run the risk of putting yourself out there until you find the right group of people and not be afraid to be vulnerable with people. And I don't mean like pour your heart out, but join a sports league. Like I have friends who met in a volleyball league. Like, and they're like not dating, they're just like friends. But I mean like a total random volleyball league, making like a ton of different friends. You know, you just got to put yourself out there and find what you love, and you'll find other people that you connect with. So.
And you feel like a little bit of a loser driving there by yourself, and then looking around, you're like, where's my team? And it's like, whatever, like it's going to happen. Yeah. And you can laugh about it later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
So we've been going for almost an hour. I want to ask one more question. And then honestly, ChatGPT, the more I'm like reading over these, they've given us so many different questions for like a ton of different topics. So this is awesome. But here's the last one. I feel like, I don't know if I should save this, or maybe we could revisit this in another one about career and vocation. But let's touch on this, and then we'll come back and we'll do a podcast on career and vocation in the future, and we'll really talk about this in depth. ChatGPT asked, what do I do if I feel like I'm failing or falling behind in my career? I feel like one of the biggest things that I hear from young adults when I talk to them, especially in the realm of vocation, career, is I just felt like I would be so much further along in my life when I like thought of myself at 25 or 28 or 30 or whatever, and I'm still doing, maybe a relatively entry-level job. I'm not making the six figures or whatever, and I feel like everybody's advancing and I'm stuck, or I'm just staying behind. Yeah. What do I do when it feels like I'm falling behind everybody else in my calling, career, purpose, whatever that is?
Yeah. First and foremost, to acknowledge that that's like a really painful feeling. I think sometimes it's like, oh, well, that can be like trivialized, like, well, whatever, like you're young. And I feel like people used to say that to me, like, well, you still got time. You're young. You're talented. They'd be like, you're Casey Mexico. I'm like, what does that even freaking mean? Casey Mexico without a job, like no skills, talents, or money doesn't make me feel better. And looking around is also painful. I think you go through high school and college and it feels like, hey, like we're all the same. We're all kind of broke. And then you graduate. Some people have connections. Some people don't. Yeah. Some people's parents have money and some people's don't. Yeah. Some people, like everything changes like immediately is what I felt. Some people have like a lot of confidence navigating the professional sphere and some don't. And then some people really know what they want to do and they're going to med school. And then everyone asks them at church, what are you doing? Oh, I'm going to med school. Oh, this isn't me. This is just a couple of my friends. Never go to church with your really talented friends, like, and then what about you, little girl? And you're like, not sure at all. What are you going to do with your degree?
Nothing.
Yeah, zero. I have a really good personality. I felt like I was going to be a personality hire my whole life, but to validate you, that's really painful and hard. And you're not alone in feeling that. I have a lot I could say on this. I think this could be a whole podcast. I'll say one thing that someone said to me my senior year of college. One of my teammates' moms was in charge of charitable giving at Google. She was like a big deal,
know. That's awesome.
I know. And I was like, she's like, I want to take the seniors out to Mexican food. And I'm like shaking in my boots. I'm like, do you want to hire me?
Seriously.
Trying to make a connection, being so awkward. And the thing that she said that was cool, and she got her way into that role by, honestly, she somehow got connected with Bill Gates before he was big and then worked for him. And those stories where you're like, sick. Yeah. Wild. This worked for you because you're like a boomer. And they all have houses. You're like, sick. Yeah. And then she ended up there and she was a mom and took a few years off and got to go back. And I was like, that's even amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And she said, growth isn't linear. And she was like, you need to start viewing success in your 20s as a playground instead of an escalator. Yeah. Like the escalator is the stairs that move, right? I was like elevator, escalator, escalator. She's like, once you can begin to see your 20s that way, you'll have a lot of fun. Like cool. You'll have a lot of fun. And I was like, what does that mean? She's like, some jobs you'll learn without knowing it, you'll learn how to use the monkey bars. And you'll be like, I'm bad at these. I'm bad at these monkey bars. Some jobs, it'll feel like going down a slide. Some jobs, it'll feel like you're in the sand pit. She like kind of had an illustration. She's like, but all the while, as you're navigating your 20s, you're learning.
Yeah.
You're accumulating. You're learning about you, what you're good at, what you're not, what you like, what you don't like. She's like, checking things and crossing things off the list is just as valuable as finding out what you want to add to the list in terms of what you're good at and you love. And so she gave me an expansive and a dynamic view of my 20s that wasn't an escalator. And it made me feel like for the first time free to fail and almost like failure was success.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so then I was like, okay, what's something I like right now? I like sports. I'm going to go work in sports journalism. Did it for 2 years and I was like, absolutely not. I like playing sports. I don't want to watch people play them. I don't want to write about it. I don't want to talk about it. I'm over it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I crossed that off the list because maybe right now I'd be in my career and wonder.
Yeah.
And I love that I crossed so much off my list. So for me, viewing it like a playground was helpful. I don't know what were some nuggets of advice that you feel like you got?
Man, just that, like, I don't know, like some of my favorite people who have done things didn't start until they were like older. So I actually, no lie, earlier this week, somebody reposted this post on Instagram. And I'm 36 and I feel like I'm so far behind, like want to do a church one day, want to be a lead pastor, want to start one from the ground up. And growing up, all the people that were doing this were like the Stephen Furticks, and he was like 26 and had a church of like 5,000 people. And it's like, if I would have started a church at 26, I would hate the church that I'm a part of. Like so much of my philosophy on church and even who I am as a Christian has like grown and changed and matured and maybe become immature. Like, I don't know, but like, I'm like, okay, like Louis Giglio didn't start Passion, I want to say until he was 55.
Wow.
And so, but there was this post on Instagram that said this: Christian Dior didn't start Dior until 41. Sam Walton didn't start Walmart until 44. Adolf, hard name, Dassler, not Hitler, Adolf Dassler didn't start Adidas until 48. Bernard Marcus didn't start Home Depot until 49. I'm going to butcher this name. Forgive me. Cheleo Uvida didn't start Red Bull until 53.
Wow.
So you have time. It's just what it says.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's true. I feel like there is and weirdly, like in church, more than nobody that I talk to that's not in church has a desire to discover their life's purpose at 23. That's something we push so much at church. And I think we do because I think it's true. I think every person is designed with a purpose. But I feel like destiny, whatever word you want to use, but I feel like we take that into a singular purpose where I feel like purposes are way more expansive and can look very different and can be seasonal and can be, I don't know. I feel like by 23, we want to know that we're supposed to work in finance or corporate America or be an entrepreneur, whatever. And I just don't feel like life works that way.
Yeah.
I think purpose is multifaceted, and you can be walking in your purpose in your 20s, and then your 30s, your purpose can look totally different. Yeah. Or you could be somebody that maybe like Stephen Furtick knew at 26 and is doing it until, I don't know how old he is now, but is still doing it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that's good.
I would just say, like, you're not like behind on what? Like, this is going to sound morbid, but like everybody dies, you know, like you're not behind, like just because your friend might be able to buy a house now, like whatever, like you buy a house in 2 to 3 years, who cares?
Yes.
Like, you know, it's not that big in the grand scheme of life. So yeah, I would just say you don't have time, like, or you don't have time. You are behind. No, I just, this whole idea of having to be at a certain place in life at a certain point, it's just not real. It's just unwelcomed, unnecessary pressure. So take that off of yourself. Any final thoughts before we close out this ChatGPT inspired podcast?
ChatGPT. No, I think being in your 20s can feel like you're in the arena and you're covered in dirt and there's a lot of detours and I think my last thought would be like enjoy it.
Yeah.
I know that sounds, I think sometimes like adults get older and they're like, oh, I wish I could be like a little kid in the sandbox again. And they like long for a joy and a delight in becoming. And I think that doesn't have to end. Yeah. And I think there's a reframe of like, yeah, you're in the thick of some hard things. You're in the thick of some hard emotions. You're in the thick of it. And also that is when you come to know Jesus in ways that I don't think you could if you were comfortable, or I don't think you could if you made it, whatever that looks like. Yeah. And so I always say, like, if it's funny later, it's funny now. And if you're in the midst of something really heavy and hard, odds are that a lot of other people are. And you should at some point find a way to cry about it and laugh about it. Yeah. And I know that sounds simplistic, but I don't know. My 20s, at times in my life where I thought I had no one, I made some of my best friends. Like when I thought I was like on a detour and God couldn't possibly use it, I like had some of my most creative thoughts. And so there's just a lot of hope for your 20s.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would just say, like, I mean, we have so many different questions that this prompted that we could talk about, try to do a 30,000 foot overview. But as we're coming back, I would just say, man, like, if you're listening to this, you're in your 20s, attach yourself to a church community.
Yeah.
Don't waste your life waiting for a relationship. Build a life. Put yourself out there, make some friends, and realize you are not falling behind. Just pursue what's on your heart. Pursue what God puts in front of you. Just say yes. Be obedient with the next thing. Don't worry about the thing 10 years down the road. Be obedient with the next thing. Yeah. And I genuinely believe you will find yourself ending up in the right place, the right time for everything that God has in store for you.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
All right. Well, this is going to wrap up our first podcast back in a long time. But I hope that it is not our only podcast that we do for the next 6 months. So, no, we love you guys. We're excited. Hey, if you're in the Denver area, be sure to check out Red Rocks Young Adults. We meet every single Thursday night at 7 o'clock at our Red Rocks Church Lakewood campus. As well, we have services on the weekends, Saturdays at 5 o'clock, Sundays at 8, 10, and 12. At all of our Denver-based locations, Arvada, Park Meadows, Littleton, and Lakewood. Be sure to come by and join us on the weekend as well. All right, we will see you guys in a couple weeks. Peace out.